Back for the 4 o'clock hour on this Friday. And again, a huge weekend in college football. Brigham Young winning last night. Washington playing tonight. And we'll get to that as we discuss the national games. And let's start with the ACC game. NC State's been hanging around. Clemson, can they get that kind of performance out of their quarterback? If they do, well, they're pretty good. And NC State, Clemson in the ACC.
I like NC State a lot in this game, although I don't know if I'm ready to, lean completely in. We'll get to our picks at 4:45, but I really do like what they're doing there, the way that their defense plays. They have a big open offense. This is going to be probably for Clemson a lot like last week's game against Wake Forest was. I don't know if it'll be 51-45 in overtime, but I think that'll be wide open, a lot more scoring. Two quarterbacks you can blank plays in this one, and Devin Leary at NC State and DJ Uiagalelei at Clemson. So should be interesting. I wonder, can Clemson get the running game out of the running backs against this NC State defense? Can Will Shipley have a big game? But I do think that Clemson is wading into an ACC now where they're still the top dog, but there's a lot of teams that are getting better. So it's not just this week and last week. They've got several games down the line that are
the tide is rising around them a little bit, so to speak.
I mean, they're at home, and on paper they have the best quarterback, the best running back, and the best wide receiver statistically. I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily carry over, but give me Clemson in this. Or I guess we're not. Are we picking or we're just talking?
Do that at 4:45. Yeah.
Well, we'll do we're discussing the games right now.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson's at home. I know they've been a bit up and down. NC State's been fine. I don't think that they're just some juggernaut. However, their win over Tech was impressive. But, yeah, I mean, something's got to give between these two. A nice top 10 matchup. And I know everybody's kind of waiting for Clemson to show their thing. But tell me, please, who NC State's beaten. Who have they beaten? ECU, Charleston Southern, Texas Tech, and UConn. UConn, one of the probably 3 worst teams in all of college football. So, I understand why they're top 10. I understand. I think that Tech win was really nice. But they have played – I guess give ECU some love maybe, and their 1-point win on the road there to open the year. But, I don't know. I think that I like Clemson in this game. I think that, ECU, I just looked at it. They just lost to Navy last week. That's not even a good Navy team. So, yeah, I'm a little higher on Clemson just because I feel like they're a little bit more battle-tested at this point.
They struggled on offense last year, and their quarterback is he seems to have turned the corner.
I think so. I think part of the reason is the offensive line's playing a lot better.
Well, that'll help any quarterback in the world.
He's more decisive.
Yeah, he is, and he gains confidence, and they probably feel that as well. Tulane, well, they've been part of the story of college football. A couple weeks ago, beat Kansas State, but they lost to Southern Mississippi last week, 27-24. And a team in Houston that we don't know. We mentioned earlier that Texas has had a players-only meeting, whatever was going on with that. They're not the only one, but or at least we don't know of. But this could be off the rails if Houston doesn't win. Tulane's good. Willie Fritz is good. They beat Kansas State. But to me, could this be – this is like Custer's last stand?
Well, this is they might have players-only meetings at Houston about their personal infighting and fighting on the sidelines, but if they lose to Tulane, if Tulane can muster up another upset here, then I think they might be having some administrators-only meetings at Houston.
And this is tonight, by the way, that Tulane game with the Cougars and Dana Holgorsen right now in not a free fall, but they're close to it.
Did you see the little Art Briles dust up with Dana Holgorsen? There was, I guess, the coaches. Well, what timing for my phone to go off here?
It's okay. That's a $10 fine, according to Brian Kelly. Well, no, that's if you're late.
Put that on the rest of my bill. So I guess they were doing the coaches show with Dana Holgorsen, and I couldn't see the exact details because it was a paywall. So it's always good when the popular thing that people actually pull from your random local newspaper is the one thing that you have to then go pay for. Sure, I'm going to pay to see this one thing that I care about. I find that weird how pay sites work sometimes. But, apparently he got somebody in the audience or call. It said, back when Art Briles was here, he used to recruit linemen that were like 345 pounds versus the two, and like this whole thing about how Briles used to do it. Mm-hmm. And Dana Holgorsen basically stopped the person mid-question, whoever it was. Hopefully it wasn't media. and basically told him that he doesn't care because he's the coach and that person isn't here anymore, and to never bring up that person's name again. And so that was pretty pretty interesting to see from last night.
Art Browse was at Houston 15 years ago.
Well, that was his point.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with Dana Holgorsen or Houston for that matter, and doesn't need to be brought up in any form or fashion in any way, especially when the guy, I think, said, like, he did do, like, there were some things, but Art used to do, and it's like, oh, there were some things? There's some things that happened with him? Like, yeah, there were some downsides to him, you're right. But, yeah, that was weird. So anyways, I think, Dana's got, something to prove this weekend and to show that this team's actually not falling apart at the seams, and that, the struggles, whether they be on the field or on the sidelines, aren't, just a summary of really what's going on behind the scenes, that they're instead maybe just poor moments caught on camera or just bad performances, and everything's actually a lot healthier than it appears.
Well, Tulane's not going to just throw up on this game. They're going to have to go out. That's going to be a good game for Houston to button it up if they can.
Well, yeah. So I think that it ought to be a great matchup to see kind of where they are, and I'm not so worried about Tulane, quite frankly. I'm more worried about Houston. I understand your point. Tulane's fine for what they are, but Houston's got problems, potentially interior.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with Tulane. So I'm curious to see from Houston tonight if there's more to those problems and their struggles than just what we've seen. And I think Tulane could can force some of that, but if Houston goes out and plays well and plays sharp and there's no fighting, then I think that'd be a good sign. If they go out there and they struggle and they have some of the same issues they've been having, then that's going to worry me at this point, 5 weeks into the season, that something else is bubbling behind the scenes.
That is a night game tonight. Again, Tulane and Houston. And then Washington, it's been one of the nice stories. They kind of came out of nowhere. They're good. And we'll find out a little bit more. UCLA, I don't know. I mean, it's a tonight game. I think Washington's just better.
It'll be, listen, it's going to be an intimate showing tonight of UCLA football at the Rose Bowl. Very sitting room only. They'll have plenty of space, and you can say that you got exclusive. That's what UCLA needs to do to market these things: is exclusive opportunity. That's LOA
this
people
won't be
like
a little
it.
bit more people for this.
Probably a little bit more. Probably a lot of the UW fans that live in Washington will show up to this game,
or in California.
And I think Washington. If I had to pick a transfer portal winner right now, I think Michael Penix to Washington is the transfer portal winner. He has changed the whole vibe around that program. And look, they were 4-8. Kalen DeBoer, I know he didn't feel like the talent on the roster was 4-8 because it wasn't just too long ago that they were, in the CFP at Washington. And all of a sudden be a 4-8 team after 2 years of Jimmy Lake is kind of, that's a lot of talent walking out the door, which can happen in the transfer portal. But it's not just Michael Penix; it's everybody else that's kind of risen up. Our guy Will Nixon from Midway High School, is part of that running back rotation that they have. They've got so many skill players that there's some guys that they like that they don't even get to see.
He had a touchdown last week. Will Nixon did. Yeah. Craig, your thoughts about Washington and UCLA?
I think there's a chance the Huskies get upset. I mean, it's in L.A. I know that's not super home field advantage, but UCLA's 4-0. I mean, they're no pushovers. They've got some good players too. Dorian Thompson, I think, is a very good quarterback. I think Michael Penix has been a tremendous player to watch as well. So between DTR and Penix, I think it's going to be a good little QB matchup, and probably whoever has the better games probably going to be the one tilting it in their team's favor. But I don't know what quite to make of Chip Kelly and company just yet, but they're off to a relatively nice start, and I'm sure they would love to play spoiler. And for as much as crazy home field, like let's say UCLA has 100 people in the crowd, because that's entirely possible. We've heard plenty of people talk about how that's just as weird as going and playing in front of 75,000 packed and screaming, because you'd almost want there to be noise, because there's so few people there that it's just weird to play, because it's like a glorified practice, basically, that can throw you off. And there's as much of a potential for that as there is for the big, loud, screaming crowd. So I think Washington is a better team, but don't put it past on a nighttime game weird on the West Coast for it to get a little wonky.
Washington kind of came on the map when they beat Michigan State, who they have fallen off. They're like a concrete and water, a big brick and water falling straight down, and then had the pretty dominant win against Stanford, 40-22. Also, Arkansas, how did they bounce back after an emotional loss, which is like almost every year it seems like to A&M? Not every year, but it seems like they find a way. Bama We saw what they were against Texas. You could already see where they're tweaking. They haven't been tested since that time, but this is that's a really good. You hear about Arkansas. This is a West Division game. You hear that they are better. They are better. They're physical. This could be a knockdown, drag-out game.
I'm curious to see if this is more like the Texas game or winds up that Alabama has found their stride in playing some of these lesser opponents. They just throttled Vanderbilt last week, and that offense was humming. But who knows? Arkansas's got a lot better defense. Like you said, they're physical. We'll see if KJ Jefferson, the offense, can rebound from the point in that game where he tried to Superman from the 4-yard line. I know that what is he, 6'5", 6'6"? Like, you're tall.
He's a big dude.
You're tall. You're not that tall, and so.
One thing that you don't, when you're big or strong or tall or whatever, you know what you lose when you jump in the air? Leverage.
Yeah.
You're just, it's a big body, but you lose leverage, and that's what happened with him.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I mean, that was just a terrible way to lose to A&M last week, which was almost entirely self-inflicted, and then the football gods just messing with you on that field goal so much. So I'll be interested to see. I'm also kind of equally interested to see if Alabama's offense can consistently be that good, or if they do have a kryptonite and they're going to score a bunch of points against the Vanderbilts of the world, and then when they play good teams, are they going to be in the 20 to 25 to 30 range?
I'll take Alabama here. I think that they're just a better team as far as what I've seen so far, and I don't have much to add on to Arkansas. The stupid play from last week, I mean, that's what it was. It was a stupid decision, and they should have won that game. That was a bad loss for Arkansas. They're a solid team, but give me Bama. I just think that they'll ultimately pull away and win by a couple of scores.
Alabama crushed Utah State in the opener 55-0. They're supposed to. Brigham Young last night, when we saw Utah State, they had a little bit, but Brigham Young, as good as we think they might be, or in that top 20, 15, 20, or whatever, they again, not the players, the athletes that Alabama has. Also, finally, this one. I'm picking Kentucky. I'm going to tell you, we got it late, but I'm going to do that. I just like it. I love Stoops. I love what they are. I know Ole Miss is explosive. They're at home, but I just feel like all that stuff early about we're a basketball school or a football school. I'm kind of on the Kentucky train right now.
Yeah, I like Will Levis. I like what they've got going on there. I like Mark Stoops a whole lot. I'm a big Stoops fan just in general, as you guys know. But I think that almost all of them, 2 out of 3 for sure. But I think that this is going to be really interesting. Jackson Dart, at Ole Miss has had a good start to the season, and they've opened up the offense. They've opened up the offense. Lane Kiffin's got a wide open offense. They've opened up offense there at Kentucky. I don't know. I just think that I kind of am leaning Lane Kiffin in this one, but I'll make my decision when we get to the picks. I like what both these teams are doing. Jackson Dart certainly wants to be where Will Levis is right now, where Will Levis might be one of the top 3 best quarterbacks thought about in the country after Young and Stroud.
Yeah, it's a big game for some separation just in terms of the pecking order of the SEC. I'm not sure Kentucky's a top 10 team, but they do get their running back this week, so it ought to be interesting.
You know what? They don't give up a lot of points. So something's got to give here because Mississippi, of course, puts up a lot of points, or at least that's what the MO. But they did win Kentucky and Florida, who was hot, and then they're cold. But we'll see what happens with that one. That game is 11 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Kentucky on the road in Oxford against Ole Miss. When we come back, we make our picks, right?
No. When we come back, we're going to have Joey McGuire, and we'll make our picks.
When we come back, our conversation with Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire, coming off the win against Texas, and also the week of as they get ready to play Kansas State. And around the corner, our picks of some national games and Big 12 games. Put them on record. This is 365 Sports.